Jonny, again, I really enjoyed that conversation. We're talking with Jonny Wilkinson. Jonny in 2003 scored what would be actually, is this the only World Cup that England ever won in rugby?
It's the only World Cup that a Northern Hemisphere team has ever won. So England have only won one,
Holy
but
cow.
England's the only
So you
Northern
scored
Hemisphere
the
team.
winning drop shot.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, and you scored
every
the
other
winning
World
drop
Cup,
shot.
yeah, every other World Cup's been
And
South
those,
Africa, New
for,
Zealand, or Australia.
it's crazy. Um, so explain to us real quick, what is the drop shot?
So drop goal. What it is basically like a field goal in American football. When you put the ball down, we put it on a tee.
Okay.
We don't have someone holding it. It's a dead ball situation, like a free kick in soccer. And if you kick that through the post, that's 3 points. But that can only be when you're awarded a penalty. Whereas a drop goal can be in the middle of play. And drop goal means that you drop the ball from your hands and then kick it as soon as it touches the floor. So it must bounce, but as soon as it bounces, you can kick it. And that's called a drop goal. And that can be done at any point during the game. So those, if you want to kick a penalty, you have to earn. Sorry, if you want to kick a field goal, you have to earn a penalty. But a drop goal, you can just hit from anywhere at any time.
That is a crazy feat, by the way. How far was your kick? How far out was your kick from the goal?
So I'm going to go ahead and I actually, because like I mentioned to Laura, when I was young, I started messing around with both feet. So I had a thing with drop goals where I'd just use whichever foot felt right. And the one in the World Cup final just happened to be with what people might consider to be my weaker foot. But I used to kick on the basis of whichever foot gave me the best angle or the most time away from the opposition. And this one was about 25, between 25 and 30 meters out, just to the side. It was one of the easier ones by all accounts. But I'm as much as I like to talk about sort of not being dependent upon the outside world for my happiness, I'll always be grateful that one went over, for sure, as opposed to missing.
Sure. And that was one of the things I was thinking about during your conversation. I was like, so that was 2003. It's 2022. It's been 20 years. You've been on this introspective, spiritual journey since. And sort of the idea that I got was that, you had reached I think I was thinking about this. I was like, we all dream about hitting that free throw that'll win the game, or the grand slam home run that'll, take the team to the series, and, the goal in soccer. And you did it. You actually lived your whole life up to this point and got there. I mean, I can't imagine the feeling you had with the world around you. And then this journey of self-worth began at a new level for you. Is that kind of sum it up a little bit about the conversation you guys had?
Yeah, definitely. I think that the summary of it is that when you haven't done it, it matters so much, and rightfully so. But when you have, it doesn't matter. And that's kind of the thing,
right.
Not winning on the way to that World Cup, it was everything. But once you've won it, you kind of go, oh, it's always, it's being in that space of, is this it? Hugely. And I think that was that. If you expand or intensify that, is this it feeling? That was the hit that I took. Was that it was not just is this it about the World Cup? It was about life. Is this it? I've done everything. I've fought hard. I've sacrificed. I've given this, and this is it. And suddenly, that ultimate kind of the doom almost got in. That said, well, you're done for. You're done for. What have you got left? What have you got left? That was your gift. You've achieved everything you wanted to. What have you got left? And thankfully, over it with a bit of time and settling in, that was a pointer to say, you've got so much left. You haven't even scratched the surface. You've just been looking in the wrong direction.
Yeah, that's that wonderful message too, because I think, a lot of us get transfixed on, like, this is the thing that will make me whole. And then when we hit the thing, we realize that it's not the thing. And I really loved how you talked about the journey being an inside job, we call it. in our community, right? Where the fix doesn't come from anything exterior. Anytime we transfix on something from the outside to fix the inside, we're in a precarious position.
Definitely.
And then the journey becomes I mean, you said we were talking about rugby, and I have a little history with the rugby. I never played, but I lived in a
What?
town that had a, no, I never played. But,
I didn't know you had a history with rugby.
well, the Park City, I lived in a ski town, and I think rugby is really popular among ski towns. Like all the ski
Okay.
towns
Yeah.
play each other, and they have a rugby team. And it's a real festival for the town. We all get together, come down. It's a big drinking and partying thing. And one of the things, I'm getting off track a little bit, but one of the things I did love about rugby is it was so fierce on the field, but there was such camaraderie when it was over. And it was a real dichotomy for me. I didn't understand what I was witnessing when I was witnessing, but you talked really well about that. Can you maybe talk just a little bit more about how that exists?
Well, do you know, it's a bit of a, as we mentioned, well, I've sort of said before, it's a bit of one of those properties of rugby that it can't be found in the parts. Yeah, you can't look at the parts and go, well, this added makes this. It just springs out of rugby. I think it has something to do with the fact there's a contact nature of it, that it's physical. So there's that physical vulnerability.
It's somewhere between football
and
soccer. And
it is,
I don't even understand. It's crazy with no pads.
Exactly. And there's no pads, but there's also so much of it because of the way the game's structured. There is enormous dependence upon the teammates either side of you or in your team generally, that if you want to have a good game, it's not happening unless everyone is having a good game. Yeah, the times that I got man of the match, the best way I could have passed that off would just be to say, it's just because of my team. And every time someone said you were terrible, I could have equally said, it's pretty much because of my team. That's the way it works. And you have to spark that. But I think the brilliant thing for me is that in the change room, because of that physical vulnerability, because of that unknown, because of, it's physical as well. Am I going to get hurt? Am I going to be the one that misses the tackle? Am I going to be this? Do I get this right? You share that vulnerability and there is no answer to it. It's what we were talking about in the chat about the response to vulnerability is not to try and answer it. And when you're in the change room with these guys, everyone's looking at each other for that reassurance. They want you to say something which will make them know it's going to be okay. But the only thing that makes you know it's going to be okay is when you look at your teammate and you just know that they will go there with you. They can't take away anything, but if they go with me and they are willing to also be vulnerable and also take that next step into the unknown and through the challenge, then you look and go, somehow that's answered it without answering it. And that's what I think brings that bond in players and also with opposition players, because you know that they are also going through the same thing. And you walk out onto that field and you have no guarantee but that part of you that says, I can choose what I do next. And that other part of you that says, we're stronger together.
Wow. I mean, you've shed such a cool light on I probably think it's maybe one of the most understood sports out there because it is so sort of nichey and it is so European more so than it
Very
is
much
in
so,
the United States.
Yeah,
Even Laura
definitely.
was like, "What? You have experience?" And and I
and,
loved it. I mean, I never understood it.
Well. Yeah, and Antipodean as well. So you go down south and you'll find it South Africa, Argentina, Australia, New Zealand, really big, and others, big rugby heartlands. But yeah, we're sort of, I think we're making our way towards you. We're getting there in your universities. We're growing fast, I think.
It's awesome, man. If you've never seen it, I do have one other question. So real quick, what, I've been a surfer for many years and I'm kind of hit a place in surfing where I feel like I've plateaued a little bit and I'm trying to, sort of get myself away from it. And as I do it, I'm not trying to give it up. I'm trying to find balance with it, if you will. And as I do it, I look back and I think about all the times I've given surfing more of my time than I should have. And I'm trying to see if I have regrets. Is there any regrets of your pursuit of this goal of that you achieved? Did you miss anything?
No, I don't. Regret was something that I used to function on majorly. One of those things that sent me into a crisis moment was the inability to change the past. The idea that the past would stain me, whatever it was that I did, humiliation or whatever, it would live with me. And the fact that you couldn't change it. Right. But then I learned something, or I revealed something very, very interesting, I think, in my life, which is to understand that I grew up with this idea that who you are is just a result of all you've been through. But I debunked it so quickly when I got deeper into it, because I would look at a difficult period. I was injured for 4 years and missed probably a chance of playing 60 rugby games for my country, which might make me the most capped ever player and maybe the most highest point scorer. Maybe not. Maybe I would never have been picked. Who knows? But if I was feeling terrible, I'd look back over that and I'd think, oh God, what a waste of time that injury was. Oh, why did it happen to me? But then when I was in another day, I would feel amazing. And I'd look back and say, wow, those 4 years of injury just changed my life. And I'd be like, hold on, this is ridiculous. I've got 2 different stories for who I am. This is crazy. How can people talk about a past when it's changing? And then I realized it's who you are is not what you've been through. What you've been through is a result of who you choose to be now. And now you get to change your past. So you can't have regrets. You can change your past. And it's so powerful. But then even looking at regret, I look back at who I was and how I was. And I say, right, one condition, I'll go back and do it again. But the one condition is I get put back into the same body, which means the same idea of who I was at the time. And as soon as I have that same idea of who I was at the time, I do everything the same. You can't have your wisdom.
I had to write that down because I thought it was so powerful, right? It's like, I thought you were going to end up in the same road that I've heard, like you were just going to reverse it, but it's actually about what you do based on what's happened to you, what the next step is. Yeah, it's gorgeous, man.
So listen, just one thing that really burns with me, I love it. Not many things come up in me, but this one did, was that, you only ever take one step in life, and that's the next one. So all this idea that all the steps I've taken in my life, you haven't. You take one, and it's the next one. And so if you imagine you keep taking that next step the way you want to, when it does come to the end, you look back, you'll look and go, what a journey. But if you make it about the last step that defines who you are, you're done for. And this is the idea, I think, that when you look back and you try to make sense of what's been so that you can move on, it doesn't work that way. For me, it works in the way that you move on, and that's what makes sense of what's been. So you just work on, how do I want to move on? How do I overcome these emotions that stop me being able to move on the way I want to move on? But me being me, I wanted to find all the answers. Why did I behave that way?
Right.
What's happened to me in my life that's made this be this? But you're like, the answer could also equally just be in saying, how do I want to be? Now take that step. And it just pulls everything into line.
Back to that original, like, how do we attain, you were talking in the interview about a self-worth and feeling that shift of perception internally. That becomes the thing that you can count on, as opposed to the external goals and things that you think were going to fix you. And I love that shift of perception. Like, this didn't happen to me, but how do I move forward the way I want to from this point on? It's I never thought we'd have such a deep conversation with a rugby player. And I have to say, you look pretty good for a rugby player. A lot of the friends I had were missing teeth. I mean, I know your body has been brutalized, but
so I hide most of the
pretty
scars.
Well, man.
Yeah, I hide most of the scars. But no, I'm very lucky. And like I said, player welfare is a big thing at the moment. And I have the big conundrum now of saying, what do I think about my children playing the game? Because I have this beauty thing of being, I love the game. It was so powerful to me. But also I love my freedom now to move and be me and still be able to touch my toes and follow my hobbies and follow my passions. There's a real balance there, and it's important to have a longer term view of life whilst making the most of the moment and investing in your health and well-being. Because in rugby, you get a lot of fit people, but not a lot of healthy people. Health is so much bigger than that. And I think, mentally, emotionally, physical, whatever you can do to invest in your health that itself, I think, is the only thing that does pay you back. I mentioned this always, what do you get a payback from life? But looking after your body, looking after your mind, looking after your emotions, it pays you back pretty instantaneously as well.
It's been fascinating, and I hope you guys tune in and listen to the interview. It was very enlightening, and thank you so much, Jonny, for being on the show. We appreciate it.
My absolute pleasure. No, good luck to you both. I love the format you've got. I think it's no wonder you guys are doing so well.